Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 found footage film Frogman. Now, for people who have watched my channel long enough, you may be saying to yourself, why are you watching a found footage film and reviewing it? Because you don't like found footage films. I recently, for people who don't know, put out a video about found footage being my most hated subgenre of the horror genre. So I don't really like found footage, but this is the thing. I'm always down to try new films. I'm always down to support low budget independent filmmakers, which is the case for this film. And I think that's actually really important. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep trying. Even though I don't like a subgenre, doesn't mean I shut it down totally and just don't watch it. It's just, I go in with less enthusiasm. I'll just say that. But it is good for me to give this kind of disclaimer so maybe people who are found footage fans can understand that the glasses I'm looking at these through are a little bit tainted. So anyway, Frogman, directed by Anthony Cousins, who did Scare Package, or segments for Scare Package and Scare Package 2. The segments they did were The Night He Came Back Again, and then also did something called Fat Fleshy Fingers. That's an interesting title. Written by Cousins as well as John Karsko, who worked on In Harm's Way and Scare Package and Scare Package 2. Hunting Buddies, yes. And I put In Harm's Way twice for some reason. Anyway, I rented this through Vudu, which, you know, it's a site through Fandango where you can rent and buy films digitally. I usually don't buy, I just rent because they're pretty cheap, especially for a film like this. With tax, it was like $4 and some change. Like, that is barely anything. That is the cost of, like, you would pay like 5 times that just to go to a movie at the theater. So it's totally worth it to spend that little amount of money to support these filmmakers. So synopsis. There's not a whole lot to the synopsis. It literally is about a guy who, when he was young, saw something with his family. He believes he saw the Frogman. Got a little bit on tape. Because, yes, it was that time period, actually using VHS tapes. And some people on the internet have been poking fun at him. He hasn't made anything out of his life, basically, and he decides, I'm going to show everyone. I am going to go actually make a documentary and find the Frogman. So it's just playing off the typical kind of like, cryptids are real, let's go find them. Been a lot of TV shows like that, a lot of movies like that, and this film actually does feel like it takes a lot, basically verbatim, from the Blair Witch Project. So for that reason, the film's going to feel very familiar. It is one of my big gripes with the movie, is that it feels so close to the Blair Witch Project. Although, there are some different things that they do end up doing that I appreciate about this film. And I would say, watching now in 2024, it is a more entertaining watch than the Blair Witch Project. Just saying. Yeah, because just Blair Witch was important then. It does not age well, is all I have to say. All right, so this film tackles a cryptid not often used for movie fodder, so I really did appreciate that aspect of it. Not that familiar with Frogman. I've actually never even heard of the cryptid Frogman before, although I also don't dive deep into the world of cryptids. So it was refreshing. You know, whenever someone is mining some new material for a film, I'm all about it. I think it's great. So the fact that they went after Frogman, cool, and they made him interesting. They made this whole Frogman search thing kind of interesting, so I appreciate that. The shot on video footage that they use actually looks appropriate for what it's supposed to be. It literally looks shot on video from the 80s. Very well done on that aspect of it. And then they have it updated to digital now that they're shooting, and that looks appropriately so as well. There's some fun... the way I typed my note, not great. They make some fun of YouTubers in the beginning, which is a small segment, which I think is always funny. I like when they do that. They kind of have these YouTubers talking about things just over the top, just ridiculously animated, putting in all these like weird sounds and just like, it's frantic, it's all over the place, it's ridiculous. So I like that when films do it, because YouTubers can be very ridiculous. I know it's funny for me to say that, but yes. There is some pretty good humor in this. It's not a straightforward documentary film. It's not something like Hell House or something like that. Those are more serious and straightforward and trying to be scary. This one has some stuff that is trying to be scary, but it's very light in the way it sets things up and has a light, kind of more fun, humorous feel to the film. And some of the humor that they throw in there is okay, and some of it's actually pretty good. So mid to upper mid on the humor. So I was down with that aspect of it. The acting, for the most part, is pretty good. The character interactions actually feel very realistic, which is obviously something you really, really desperately need for a successful found footage film. People need to be able to just kind of like go and riff and relax and make it seem like these are conversations that are organically happening. Now, for that reason, it's hard to know how much of an actual script there was for the film, especially when it comes to the dialogue aspects, but for this one, I don't think it really mattered because it seems like they did a pretty good job. The actors did what they could for the most part, and, well, for the most important parts, basically. And they made it seem natural, so that's great. There is one character, unfortunately, though, who is extremely annoying. And this doesn't give anything away about the film, really, but one of the people who goes along for this documentary decides, for some odd reason, that they're going to be a character in this documentary. And it's like this overly ridiculous southern drawl that they start using, which is not their normal speaking voice. And they're like overly excited. They're just they're a lot. They're a lot to handle. I hate those types of characters. They're very draining for people like me. And they just get way too annoying. And they're too front and center for too many of these scenes. And it just gets on your nerves, or at least it does for me. I'm sure there are plenty of other people out there who watch this film and be like, wow, that character is extremely annoying. Please have less of them. Plus the whole thing of being like, I'm going to be this character, this super annoying character. There's no need for that. It's obvious, like with a lot of found footage films, there's a bunch of filler thrown into this, but by nature of it being found footage, like, you need that. Like, that's normally how it is. The pacing isn't going to be great, and the pacing is not great in this. I will say, I thought the pacing probably would have been worse for a movie like this, so I guess that's a positive, because I usually think that the pacing is going to be really bad for found footage films. This one was just normal bad pacing. Well, a little less than normal bad pacing. It was like just not great pacing, whereas a lot of found footage is just like terrible pacing. So, I mean, that's an achievement. There is too much screwing around in this, though. That's what I was talking about, the whole filler aspect of it. There's way too much of the characters just hanging out, just having fun. And again, I understand that for the realism aspect of this found footage subgenre, you end up throwing that in. But not every film does that. Like, a lot of other films will actually put more material in there and really keep things moving, even though they are found footage. That's what I always hope for, and that's typically what I don't get. And it's the same situation for this one. There's just way too much screwing around. It becomes very obvious that they had a good concept here, but they didn't know how to execute that concept in a more succinct way, which I wish they would have figured that one out. Again, plays like a Blair Witch Project ripoff almost, but with some changes here and there, so I don't love that about it. They made the Frogman look good. Now, it's not a spoiler that you see the Frogman in this, because it's literally the very first, like in the very first scene that you see in the film, you see the Frogman, because it's that footage of when the guy was a child and he caught it on camera, and it's like unflinching what he catches on camera. It's very clear what it is. So the design and the practical effects and how they pulled off the Frogman was pretty cool. I actually love the way it looks, and I love the way it acts when, you actually end up seeing it. So that's really cool. And they actually did something interesting with the ending, which I was not expecting. So I actually, in the end, ended up enjoying this film enough. I did not hate it as a found footage film, so that's great. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I would give it a pretty solid 3-star rating. I think it's definitely worth watching, and I think that people who like found footage are definitely going to like this film more than me. I think a lot of people will have fun with it, so please do that. Support small or independent, low-budget filmmakers. That's very, very important. If you want to talk about this film, your thoughts on it, if you loved it, if you hated it, if you're in between on it, put it in the comments, and we could talk spoilers in the comments. That's totally cool. But do me a favor also while you're here, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I do appreciate that. That is your best way to repay me for the free content. Also, putting the thumbs ups on the videos helps out with the YouTube algorithm and all that stuff. And you can also hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, and follow my channel. Because every single day I'm putting up a video. Most days it's like, small, like 60-second or less videos, but it's something. And then I think that's 4 of the days of the week, and then 3 days of the week it's longer videos. But anyway, thank you everyone for taking your time to watch this, and until next time, keep it brutal.